Bum bum boom. Boom 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 boom.
That was really beautiful.
Yeah, it's the end of a season.
It's the end of the season. We have come to the end.
Yeah, that was our a cappella version of our intro music.
Don't Think Twice is a podcast on intimate friendship. Amrita and Andrew are writers and creative collaborators, platonic life partners, and parents to a 1-year-old son. This season, we have explored new ways to connect through co-living, platonic partnership, activism, and the built environment. Today, we're reflecting on where we've landed at the end of 2024 and the end of our season.
Welcome back, audience. This is just an episode of
Just
you
us.
and me and Amrita.
Yeah. There's some coffee. You've become a lunchtime coffee drinker.
Taking after my grandmother. I also take after her in that I have extremely low blood pressure. It's a slow heart, which is remedied. My energy.
So they are
levels.
related. They are related. So we have a blanket. We've got coffee. We've got a cozy, spicy candle going.
It's the holiday season, and you know what that means?
What does it mean?
Advent calendars.
Okay.
I was raised in the Christian church, went to church often, and I still don't know what Advent is. I'm sure there are Christians listening to this, who actually know.
Everybody knows this.
This year, I've fallen for the idea of an Advent calendar.
I love an Advent calendar. I love your very standard, basic, like $1.99, the waxy little chocolates behind every door.
I had a good friend and neighbor who had an Advent calendar that was like made of wood.
I did learn about that through a Hallmark Christmas movie, and it was really, I think it was a horror movie, low key. So this woman has
They're all low key horror movies.
Okay, a truer words were never spoken. The gag is it's a horror movies based on the curse of heterosexuality. Yeah. So this woman has this like a wooden advent calendar that her grandfather has given to her. The things that happen, like when she opens the door, like actually happen to her in real life. The advent calendar is like pulling all the strings in her life, which is super creepy. Anyway, so that was where I learned that sometimes advent calendars are just like wooden and they have the same dolls inside of them for every year.
This is what my neighbor had.
So my religious education is also very robust, as you can tell.
I stumbled upon a CNN article of not the 50 best, not the 25 best, not the 70 best or 100 best advent calendars of the year, but the 63 best advent calendars of the year.
That's kind of ironic, isn't it, for a thing that's ultimately about counting down.
Counting down.
Yeah.
It's not even divisible by 12 or So yes, dear listener, I scrolled through every page.
So you've fallen into it. Does that mean that you have indulged in any?
Oh,
or you?
Yes. So,
okay, tell me.
Well, I wasn't going to, I'm not going to spend hundreds of dollars for a cardboard box with little drawers in it. And
Except
I spent
that you did.
$175 for a cardboard box with a bunch of little drawers in it.
Okay.
For listeners who know me, I like fragrances for fun.
You are,
for
or
people
you
who
have
don't
a perfume
know,
certificate.
I have a little, so I have this little certificate, which is, meaningless. But
wait, what is it a certificate in? You know,
advanced perfumery. Neiman Marcus had an advent calendar that had a bunch of like fragrances in them, a couple of which I've had samples of. I really like them, and the bottles of perfume themselves are between $400 and $500. The Neiman Marcus has 12 drawers.
Okay.
10 of which have perfumes in them, one of which has a candle in it, and one of which has a hand lotion.
Well, that's lovely.
So, I bought it 2 weeks ago. So this is like mid-November. I've already used everything. I haven't used everything up.
So that's not really in the spirit of the advent calendar.
No, it's
what
not.
you did is you bought yourself a gift.
I did.
But that's nice. I like that.
Material things don't... what
were you going to say?
Consumerism and all that. But the experience I'm having with my advent calendar is wonderful. We have here, sitting next to us, an Oh Crap potty training book, which who else is going to write a book titled "Oh Crap, Potty Training" other than Jamie Glowacki, the Pied Piper of poop.
Yes, I did notice that, and I hate that.
Yes,
for her. And
so
for
we
us.
don't have to talk about the fact that we're going to potty train our child soon. But the one thing I will say, having read the first 100 pages of this book, and by read I mean the first sentence of every paragraph, which is all you need. She takes a lot of time setting up how to do this like day one of potty training, which is you have to like watch them all day as they're running around naked and then make this whole thing. But never, this may sound gross, and maybe it is gross.
God.
But at no point does she suggest having your child watch you go to the bathroom.
No, she does.
I didn't read that.
My sister said that there's a part where she says that you should have them watch you poop. And I was like, absolutely not. Oh, no, couldn't be me. Absolutely not happening. 100%. I'm telling you right now, looking you in the eye, that will not be me.
I know that's tough.
It's disgusting.
Tough and rough. And we can move on. We don't have to. This is
No.
podcast.
But what the point is that our kid is getting much older. Crazy to me that we're like talking about this even. You know how people are always like, oh, it goes by so fast. And
You feel like it is.
Yeah, la-di-da. Like, okay, yeah, it doesn't feel like it's going very fast when you're in the moment. But like, I was at the pediatrician office today. I took our son for his 18-month checkup. And there was a couple there that had their baby there for what was either their first visit or a very early visit. And their first visit is like, it's like 3 days or something like that. Very, very early. And they were had like a little handkerchief like over its head, and they were going shh, shh. The baby was not making a single peep, but they were like shh, shh, shh. And they were like both leaning over the baby, you know, and I could hear them in like hushed tones talking about like, it's just like, you know, like if that's even normal, and like blah blah blah, blah. And like and you know, I'm not trying to like be like, oh, look at those dumbass, you know, it's just to say that like
it feels like we're so far past that because
we're so far past that, you know. It really feels like. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. It's just to say that this is one of those truisms that we heard it a lot, and I'm sure people hear it a lot, and it's like, yeah, whew, here we are. So like you're talking about the holiday plans, and you know, I was thinking that this year was going to be the year where we were going to finally have to like figure out what is our system going to be or whatever. And it's like we've just basically decided to do what we did last year, which is to split our time with our families.
Yeah.
We did a live event a couple months ago where we spoke with Lola, who we spoke with on this podcast. And we put together this event for the Brooklyn Book Festival. And we were talking about intimate friendship and relating and, you know, something that after the fact, Lola told me that you know, people were telling her that their favorite part of our conversation was when we were talking about our legal arrangements and, you know, the questions we'd had to answer, which we've talked about extensively. When Andrew was giving an example of something that you disagreed upon, which were few and far between.
Right.
And it was like, I feel really strongly that my kid is like wakes up in his own bed on Christmas morning. And that was the example you gave. And that really stuck with people for some reason.
I wonder why.
I don't know. And like, she was like, wow, that's like really weird. Yeah, that's really something. And Lola was like, well, it sounds like maybe you, Carol, wouldn't be a good candidate to have a child with Andrew.
I've thought about it a couple times, and I've wondered, one, you know, what that sparked in that person. It's like if you watch celebrity interviews or something, and they're like, I just don't like the media like takes everything out of, or I don't have an opportunity to like say to like they don't know the full story.
So this is your celebrity moment.
It sort of feels like that in the sense that this is not so much a stake in the ground for me that we can never discuss. That is like if you sign this agreement, that's what's going to happen. And I'm going to hold you to it.
Right.
I
just saying
express that this is important to me. So if it's not going to be this way, then it's just going to require us to have conversation.
It's like, it's more just like, these are the preferences that we have. This is kind of what we think we want to have happen.
Yeah.
Like, who actually knows what you're going to feel like? Anyway, it was just, I think maybe it was just also the specificity of the example. Like, I think if we had given...
You can really sink your teeth into a specific example and decide...
And be like, oh, what would I do?
That.
I mean, I think if we had given any particular example about something, you know, There was a time like maybe in the past where I would have said like, oh, I really want to like pierce my baby's ears.
Mm-hmm.
But like maybe that would have been one that if I had put it in there that it's like, we're definitely piercing their ears on their first birthday because that's like part of Hindu tradition, whatever, then that would have been something for someone to sink their teeth into and be like, wow, that's crazy to put that in the legal document, and she's a nutcase. But anyway, I just thought it was funny.
Do I see my son waking up in his own bed for Christmas? That's like a really nice vision for me.
Mm-hmm.
But even now, like a year and a half in, it's like there are a lot of like, I just I'm open to that not being a thing that is part of our family tradition, which I think sort of, speaks to what we've been talking about this entire season, and that, exploring, expanding different aspects to how we live our lives and how we might be able to live our lives, whether that's in the family units we have, the homes we live in, whether that's cross-generational, whether, that's all these things that we've talked about this season. And it's not about like throwing out the baby with the bathwater though. And so traditions are beautiful things. And, I think there's a lot of conversation to be had and to continue to be had about how we change our world to better fit what we need. Yeah. But respecting that there are some things that we also
need to
like,
be changed,
that,
right?
and those don't have to be abandoned. Not everything has to be a radical transformation.
Correct. I totally agree with you that there are things that we had a very traditional first birthday celebration. We already covered that, but some of these things are really nice to retain. But one thing that what I was thinking about when you're talking about this is, so when we talked to Raina Cohen about her book about like platonic life partners, she mentioned that there were people who she had spoken to who came up with these brand new kind of rituals where they, instead of a marriage ceremony, it's like some sort of like commitment thing, and it was very woo woo in some of the things that some of the people that she had spoken to, which is just to say that I think it like we can stand to sometimes be a little bit more woo woo in thinking about like
you and I,
about certain like sentimental things that might be good, like as ritual building, because I think when it's two very pragmatic people, I mean, we're thoughtful people, we like navel gaze a lot, but we're ultimately very practical and don't really think about like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we like commemorated this moment by doing
we
X,
could be
Y, Z?
much better about that.
Like your ex, Jed, like he, our friend, he was often would be like, this is the first time we're doing blah, blah, blah. Or like,
remember the first time we did this?
And remember the first time we had a picnic or like blah, blah, blah. And
remember this street corner? Be like, no.
But I think it just speaks to like that, it's not that thing didn't matter to you, but it's like some of the sentimentality attached to it.
Right. I
have definitely over the course of like, the becoming a parent, I have leaned into a little bit more some elements of sentimentality, become a lot more emotional.
I was about to say, and I don't think you're leaning into sentimentality as much as you're opening yourself up to the emotional experience you're having in the moment. And like both you and I are like, very like intellectually driven. Probably we like think through something first before we feel through something. Yeah. And then when we feel something, we intellectualize it to try to understand what it is. Yes. Too quickly. And this year with him, and you have allowed yourself more moments to just like feel something.
And not always actually really know why.
Yeah. I've noticed it in myself as well. And I feel grateful for a lot of things. And one of those things is that we work together and we have like our working relationship, I feel, is very healthy. And there's just been so few like stresses around my professional life that there aren't very many times when I found myself hanging out with my child with something like a professional problem on my mind. And the couple of times that it has happened, I've also realized how present I've been able to be, because
something you I think even mentioned to me yesterday, that it's just like we're in a position right now where things feel like things aren't easy. The world isn't easy and life isn't easy and money isn't easy and all those things. But it's like I feel more secure in my life right now than I have like ever before. And I am less busy and less stressed.
And why do you think you feel more secure? You're pretty busy.
I'm busy. Actually, I'm very busy. That's a lie. In fact, it's very hard.
But you don't feel frantic. You don't.
I guess that's what, I don't feel busy. I am busy and I'm doing a ton, and we have so many ventures that we're working on. We have like, we're our professional life. There's a lot of like new arenas and new segmentation of like kind of how we're structuring our professional life. There's a lot of transformation happening there and a lot of to-dos, and it's impossible to get through them all. So I think I think it's a good question, because why do I feel this way? Because, there's plenty to do all the time. And I feel secure because thinking about like resourcing in our lives in ways that are more expansive than money, having set up our lives in a way where we're thinking of time as a resource, and our friendships as like sort of things that are as important resources to living a good life as like the money in the bank and the money in the in the investment accounts or whatever. And those all have to they do have to work together. That's the reality of the world that we live in. Like, we can't not be thinking about the financial return on our work, but it's like there's something about the more holistic picture of like of what it takes to make a good life. I really think that is what impacts me most, like waking up in the morning not stressed and going to bed not stressed, like plate full, plate over full.
So in like a similar place where I feel like busy and supported, and like I don't feel so attached to any outcomes other
around
than
what, like around professional life,
around sort of like where I'm going broadly. And I don't know if that's just because I feel like I have a really strong network of people, and that it doesn't really matter where I'm going if there's like people.
That's really sweet. That's really sweet.
What does it matter? It's
yeah, I mean, I don't know that I 100% buy what you're saying, in the sense that our ambition is as like kind of sharp as ever. Like,
yes,
we're not ambitious.
But to be ambitious doesn't mean you have to have expectations.
I think that's a very Zen Buddhist interpretation, which I like. I like what you're saying.
Well, because it's like sorry to interrupt, but it's like the pleasure is in the doing, not in the product.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many arenas in which that's true. Like, it's true of being a writer. Mm-hmm. Doing it is being a writer. And in parenting, it's like, if you always think of, it is sometimes useful to think like this is a phase and it will be done.
Yeah.
But this that's happening is the thing. That's the thing. It's not like when this is done, because it'll be something else then.
Right. Yeah. It's reframing what your like purpose and meaning is in life. It's me reframing, thinking that any sort of career aspiration, artistic aspiration is only one part of who I am, and that doesn't have to be and all of my purpose and meaning in life.
It's only as good as the other things that are around, no matter what it is that you're chasing. Even if you get that thing, it's only as good as all the other elements that are around it. So.
Right. Which in a way is also what we've been exploring this season. When you think about the box we've all collectively put ourselves in, whether it's like the relationships that are socially acceptable, and the living arrangements that are socially acceptable, and the way everything, the way our lives are from beginning to end, the acceptable ways, then also the way that if you do it that way, all the purpose and meaning and fulfillment come along with it, but then
Yeah.
but then it doesn't.
It's not. Yeah, it's not. I mean, not
And
for
it
everyone.
might for some.
Yeah.
It surely does for some.
Yeah.
Every structure works for somebody.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, we're at a particular juncture in life too, where I think that's becoming very clear. You know, we've had a lot of people going through in our social network, going through life changes, big, you know, career changes, big like breakups or, you know, moves and things like that. And even people who maybe followed the thing and are getting to a point where they're realizing that that has limitations, or a permutation that would make them happier, or it doesn't make them happy at all, and they need to like completely get out of that setting in that system.
I went on a date with a dad of a 5-year-old who has recently gotten divorced after 15 years together with his husband. We were talking, you know, about our own circumstances, and he shared, you know, about the vision he had for his future and how he had to, you know, come to terms with the fact that he was getting a divorce and his family was going to be, you know, split up and all of that. And hearing his very conventional like expectations of what who wanted his life to look like, and I mean he said those words himself, and then quickly, you know, pivoting to me and asking me about my own, you know, circumstances in life, and it was like these little. He said, like, have you dated someone with a kid? And I said no, and he's like, well, I tried to date someone with a kid. It seemed as if he was asking me what my schedule was like, because he himself is also on an on off
Right, sure.
dad for a few days and then free for a few days and dad free. And that is like a typical arrangement for most people
Divorced.
who aren't romantically linked to have a child.
Yeah.
They're sharing custody that way. We aren't romantically linked and we share custody, and that's not our
Yeah,
pattern,
well,
'cause
it's
we
not
live
like a
under the same
situation of
roof.
you're on for a few days, off for a few days. It's like you're both on and off. Like,
yeah, and you know
well, there's like sort of two threads that I want to pursue in that.
okay.
The first one is about dating.
Yes.
I've been in this conversation very like, I don't know, not kumbaya, but just like enlightened about like, oh, I've grown so much emotionally. I've blah, blah, blah. Everything's so great, you know, and everything is so great. And I do think it would be remiss for me to not say like that a lot of the challenges that I foresaw about dating. I mean, I'm not dating right now, and I feel like actually I need to get a therapist about dating before I can even pursue this. Like, it's something that I want to do, and it's something that I knew was going to be a challenge, and it is a challenge. Like, it is a huge challenge for me. So I just think that that's like important to say. I don't want to create the impression that we've created some sort of utopia where like every single piece and part fits together so beautifully and like without any friction. And to me, that's been the one part where I feel dissatisfaction, you know, and I feel.
I'm glad you used that word. I'm glad you often like hold yourself back from using some, you know, strong enough language, I think, for this.
Yeah, it's a problem, and it's a problem that I would like to address, and I don't have a sense of what I want my romantic life to look like, and it feels difficult and it feels scary to me. I understand all the things where it's like, okay, yes, the pool might be smaller, blah, 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 blah. We know all these things. In theory, it's like, okay, there are other like, you know, divorced dads out there to whom this arrangement might not be that weird or unfamiliar, and yet it still feels very intimidating to me to be out there. So
because of that, because you have a kid?
I don't know. I don't know if it's just that, or just like sort of compounding all the other issues I've had with dating in the past. Probably a little bit of both. I mean, I will say, and I've talked to some friends about this who are also single and trying to figure out their next steps with either, wanting to become parents or not, or what that's going to look like. I do feel that it's completely different for me now, because I don't feel the kind of like urgency and weight like about the idea of dating.
Yeah.
I never felt like it was urgent about having kids, because I never planned to have kids with a romantic partner. But I did feel like a lot of really sharp, like, it's like I feel like I've made a really big life decision by having a kid that is completely not contingent on this hypothetical partner, somebody choosing me, or somebody, or me choosing somebody. And, and that to me felt like something that was so out of my control when I was dating, that it's not within my control whether someone texts me back. It's not in my control whether someone likes me. That's that person's prerogative to like me or not like me, or be in the right place in their life to be in a relationship with me. So that felt terrible to me because it was like something that I didn't have control over.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, okay, well, I just said, regardless of what that part of my life is, I'm moving the ball ahead in, so many other ways. Professionally, like in my home life, I have a kid. And so in some ways it really defanged that part of my life, like that dating part, to not have as much power over me. It doesn't mean that I've solved the problem, but it means that it's just a different, I don't know, there's like something different.
I am only casually dating every now and again with no like aim, no ambition for something.
And is that because you don't want to be dating more seriously, or you just don't know what it looks like? Or
I mean, honestly, it's neither of those things. It's we're pretty busy.
Yeah.
Honestly, we're pretty busy.
Yeah.
And our kid has just started daycare over the past, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, which means it's cleared up our daytime to get more things done that sometimes had to wait until after he was in bed. And so like we work so hard to squeeze everything we're doing in during the day. Could I squeeze a date in at night? Yes, but that's just like another thing I'm trying to squeeze into it. That being said, we're heading into winter. And so the caveat is like, winter is hard in New York. I need to remind myself that there will be times I don't want to schedule a date because I don't want to go out because it's cold. But
that's not a good enough reason.
One day turns into 1 week turns into 4, turns into 8,
and you don't feel good. Like,
and you don't feel good. But in looking at my dating life, or where I am in my own life and how it intersects with someone I'm dating, because we are already doing something that's unconventional, my romantic life can and will probably be unconventional in some way.
But yeah.
All I need to do at the early point is just find someone I like enough to go on another date with. It very well might be that that's what we do for a really long time. It's just go out once a week.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That could be what happens for years, for all I know.
Yeah, with you mean like with the same person?
With the same
you might
person, just dinner and a movie every Tuesday night. But even myself, as much as we've spent this season talking about rethinking a lot of things or diving in, I have to walk slowly through this mental exercise of recognizing that is just as much a romantic relationship as any other romantic relationship that includes cohabitation, or that includes whatever, that they aren't, one isn't better than the other.
Right.
But I have to, if I think too quickly, I do put them in different categories. Oh, that's like a casual dating, sort of a fun thing. And even if I am seeing someone once a week, if you see someone once a week for weeks and months and years, the relationship gets deeper and becomes more intimate.
Yeah.
And I know what I'm saying is obvious.
It's not, though. I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think that, and I think probably a lot of people would disagree with you. That is a notable thing to say, that you could keep a relationship on a certain level But that doesn't mean that it's maintaining it on a surface level.
Right.
There can be a lot of intimacy there. It's just different kind.
Yes.
So one question that I will pose to you, you can answer or not. A while ago, you told me that at a previous time in your life, you might feel like, oh yeah, I might go on a second date with this person, just see where it goes. And you told me, I feel more at this time like I really want to know more. I really like this person, or I really am attracted to this person. And do you still feel that way, or is it just kind of in the moment?
Well, it was an interesting question given what I talked to my therapist about this week. I struggle sometimes with people who are, this makes me sound like such an asshole, but here we are. Struggle with people sometimes who are really earnest.
Me too.
And it's like I don't trust them, or I don't in first date environments, someone who sticks to small talk for a really long time. I can say like that's boring. It is boring. But what I don't ever allow for is the fact that I might be on a date with someone who is nervous to be on a date. And maybe they are nervous and you don't happen to, I'm not nervous on dates.
You're never nervous on dates to a level that is like disturbing.
I just, for whatever reason, I don't get nervous to go, have a drink with somebody.
You never.
But I've seen you go on a date.
Oh, well, see, this is two sides of the coin.
And so other people are nervous.
I mean, I'm like literally, it's like I'm in shambles.
Yeah.
I'm like physically in shambles. I'm sweating.
Hours beforehand.
Hours.
Forgetting to eat.
Can't eat.
Well, so like, obviously you're one of the closest people to me in my life. And what if the first time I met you, you were a nervous wreck like you were on a first date?
Yeah.
And I just wrote you off.
Yeah.
So this is a really long-winded way to say that I think I'm wrong.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a good enough update for both of us on the dating front. I said that there were two things that made me think of when you said you went on a date with another dad and talking about how they divide their labor. I will say that one thing that is very utopian about everything is just like more and more like just doing the daily life with you. It's like highlights to me sometimes how in romantic relationships, there's certain things that are like, you privileged in a romantic relationship that it's like that's more than friendship. But then there's certain ways in which I feel like romantic relationships, people don't even treat each other with the same respect that they treat their friends. I don't know if it's like a familiarity breeds contempt kind of situation, but I think about that sometimes because like there's been a lot of like divorce memoirs and like a lot of like art right now, like novels, like all fours, all these different things about kind of getting to a certain point in life and having, marital discontent, whatever. And then so many of a chorus of people saying, I recognize this. I see this. This is my experience. And I'm just like, I get it. And it's so not my experience. Where it's like, I don't, it's you as the dad of my child, like instructions about how to do something or, and again, it's not that all like hetero romantic relationships are like that, but it's like, there's enough of that out there. Clearly it's resonating with people.
I definitely feel like there are still gender roles, of course, at play.
Yeah.
Both in our own dynamic and then, of course, in the wider world. Just for example, like at our daycare, the person who runs the daycare.
Yeah.
She has never said, she's great. But she has never given me any
directives,
advice, said how when I pick up our kid, which
in an hour.
In a little bit, I'll have to go do here. Never said anything, but she will tell you something.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like very subtle stuff like that. Yeah,
but I think it's more. It's not about that. It's just about kind of the dynamic of like I don't feel like I'm the child manager and that you're my employee.
Yeah.
And I think that's a system that many people have.
I would like to think our generation is like a little bit better, although, I don't really know our generation, nor do I know my fellow Americans,
Apparently,
and what they want and what
apparently
they like.
we have none of us have
so
any
don't
idea.
listen to me. Like,
I think the ideal can be there that you want to be an equal parent and all these things, but it's like it's much more intrinsic than that to break out of the idea that someone is the manager and someone is the expert.
Yeah.
The woman is the expert typically, and needs to provide direction.
Yeah,
how to
and
be
it's
helpful.
like it's because women are also just the managers and experts of all relationships, not just children to parent, but parent to parent, family to family, and family to institution. All of those things are linked by women. And we're socialized like that way. So early, and then just made to believe that women have this inherent strength.
Well, I think it's just been especially highlighted, the gender aspect, because we're a man and a woman. It's like other people are going to be trying to impose the standards of a heterosexual relationship on us because they don't know. Like, we're on a daycare chat with a bunch of people, other parents from our daycare. As far as they know, we're married or we're married or whatever. They have no clue what our relationship is because they can assume whatever they want because from the outside we appear like we could be.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like I notice it more because that's not a relationship, that it's like, you know, the ways in which it doesn't fit into what is trying to be imposed, basically.
A few life updates. We now live in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Oh my gosh.
So, dear listener, turns out if you have enough space in your house, you can add another room.
You ever have that dream where there's like a room that you didn't know was there in your house?
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's always seems so ludicrous because, you know, I lived in such small apartments in New York. But in this case, we actually do have the room to add.
We do have the room. So now Ivy will have his own bedroom soon. If you have such an excellent landlord like we do, who is an extrovert, who likes to connect with people, and you also have a next door neighbor who is redoing their bathroom with a contractor who does excellent work, and those two find each other, you too can have an additional bedroom in the basement of your Flatbush
and a pergola
house.
and a beautiful, beautiful pergola. Come over anytime. Our backyard is open for business. But yes, we're gonna have he's gonna have his own room, which has been like it's been this ongoing sort of whack-a-mole problem where it's like we have him in our bedroom.
Yeah.
Now we have him in this little alcove that blocks the coat closet. Now we just have him under the stairs in the basement, and that's been working out for a while. But it means that basically,
once he goes to sleep, we can't use the other space that we have down there.
So, which is like contains our offices and our music studio and our the only television in the house.
Yeah.
So, so now he's gonna have his own bedroom, and it's like I know many people are like, "Duh," but holy shit, it's gonna be.
Okay. So, I know I told you this story recently, and for some reason it's been on my mind several times. But when I took a writing class a couple years ago, and in that writing class was another writer of science fiction who was writing this very elaborate, very well done story that took place in an alternate universe. And she was struggling with some aspects of it, which is why she was in the writing class. And during her round of critique, it got to me. And it was one of those moments when you say something and then it comes out of your mouth and you're like, wow, that makes me sound so wise. And actually, I just stumbled, like just this moment, stumbled
like I
on those words.
accidentally said something really smart.
Yes, it was at that. And I told her, I was like, what I'm really getting from this is that you need to focus on just building the world you need. Just build the world you need as you need it. And the writing instructor like pointed and he was like, exactly that. The world is too big right now. Let us as a reader build it as it comes along. And in a way, it's like I've thought about that story a couple of times in the past week when I think about my dating life and what we were just talking about, and even our physical living space, that in the whole season we've been exploring about everything we've explored. And it's, as humans, we want to know where we should be heading, but sometimes it's just a matter of building it when you need it.
Uh-huh.
And I think of my dating life, like I was trying to explain, I'm not worried about it because if I date someone I like, we'll build that as it fits into our lives as we go.
Instead of trying too hard to control for every variable in the future, which we can't. And there's so much that's unknown at this point, for us, for everyone.
So uncertain. I was listening to a Hidden Brain, which is an NPR podcast, and people are most alarmed by things that are uncertain, even more alarmed by uncertainty than something that's unknown, which there's a distinction.
That is 100% the things that cause me the most anxiety. It's not that anything could happen. It's that like one of two things could happen, but I don't know which one is going to happen. That's the thing that really sends me over the edge.
Yeah. And maybe like having, and developing enough trust in yourself that you will build the world that you need when you need to.
I mean, it's relevant to like in some literal ways to like our housing conversation, where it's like, we are in a situation where we're able to like customize the thing that we want. I will say, like, we've had some exploration, you and I, recently, of trying to figure out what would it look like if we tried to like buy a building where we could live in the same building. And that's where it's sort of like, sometimes we run into the cold realities of like, it's really hard to try to figure out how to build a multifamily thing where, we have some shared space, we have our own space, we have, and that like doesn't really exist out there. How could we achieve that? The answer is actually big question marks. Don't know. Have no plan for that.
I know.
Anyway,
well, just like I don't know if we mentioned this podcast, but we did like tour a multifamily unit with our friend Jen.
I wasn't there.
Jen and I toured it, and it was beautiful. It was in Cobble Hill, which is a very nice neighborhood here in Brooklyn. And both Jen and I were like, it was full of tenants. Like, it's going to be delivered vacant. And one of the tenants was there actually all the tenants were there while we.
So awkward.
And Jen and I left and was like, oh, the feeling of like buying a place to kick people out, to move in. Like, I know that's how the world works.
It doesn't feel very good. To me, out of all of our conversations, like the housing one feels like the one that's like kind of the biggest driver, of like,
because proximity really impacts so much of our relationships.
Right. And it's not just about you and me being able to be in a multifamily house. It's about, live near friends. There's a whole organization called Live Near Friends, helps you try to figure out how to do that. But that's so hard. And it's not just in New York that it's hard. It's hard to figure out how to have your friends in your neighborhood.
Yes.
All the things we talked about with Lola. It's not about like making the plans to go over to their house. It's about being there in the space with them. And then whatever's happening is happening. And that is such an intimacy builder. Or being able to just say like I'm going to come into your house and bring you this thing if you're next door. Like, those things are so hard to achieve. And like, Lola talked about it, that she's like lucked into her situation through.
We've lucked into ours.
We've lucked into ours. She inherited her house.
Right.
And we were lucky enough to find this place, and be with an upstairs neighbor that makes it feel like we do live in a house.
Yeah.
And that we're housemates, but in different units. And I still wish for more of that, like more being able to have our friends nearby and not a train ride away, or a borough away.
So the last thing I'll say here is that my mom recently got in a car wreck and coincided with this big storm that went through Asheville, and it coincided with her planned retirement from everything that she does, the different ventures she has going on. And it makes me think about so many people who I see retire and only then sort of get back to their life in a sense, or like retire and then start seeing their friends more often. And I also see the people in my orbit maintaining their friendships, having things that they do outside of their work that really speak to them and feed them creatively, emotionally, and feeling that they are somehow not doing the game of life the right way.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the other things. Of course, I know why. There's like the social pressures and the expectations you have for your own life. But that if you can reframe some of that and step back.
So what you're saying is people are doing things more right than they think they are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I think that's a really nice note to end on, actually, is that for people who feel like they're not hitting the milestones or doing it in a wrong way or a weird way, it's like maybe you're doing a lot more right than you think you are.
Like you're living your golden retirement years now.
Love that for us.
Boom, 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 boom. Thank you for listening to what we do.
Yeah, thank you. I feel a lot of things that people are interested in, not only just our personal story, but just us trying to like put it out there. There is, to me, like this larger kind of ethos that's come together around doing the season and really kind of clarified a lot more about my worldview. In each episode, we tried to let people know why we were talking about these topics. But to me, it all feels like these are all pieces of the greater puzzle, right? It's like all of it is just like how we're living our lives, how we're relating to each other. But it's like you can't really have the conversation in a broader sense without talking about the physical place we live in, what's going to happen when time passes and we get older, like how our Sarah Schulman episode about activism hits now versus before the election even. Like I think that right now people are thinking a lot more in terms of this mindset about like how do we meaningfully connect with each other and how do we meaningfully care for each other.
You say it well.
The best way to keep up with us is at our weekly newsletter, emergencycontacts.substack.com. We send out new writing every week. If you've liked anything you've heard this season, please rate us on the platform of your choice, and please share this season with other folks who might enjoy what we're doing here. We already have ideas about our next season and would love to hear your thoughts and feedback, and we'd love to get connected to a larger platform too. Thanks for listening and supporting and being in our extended chosen family. Our street is silent, except for when we're trying to record the podcast, and it's like every fucking
Horn.
Tom, Dick, and Harry is trying to parallel park on the street right now.
It's pretty bad. College has ruined America.
Okay, wow, that's
an op-ed I'm going to write. Yeah, you heard me. All you people heard me. Mm-hmm. Not knowledge. Knowledge has not ruined America. There's not enough knowledge. There's too much college and not enough knowledge.
Okay, that is your slogan right there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's a tagline.
Yeah. Take it to the bank. I'm writing that op-ed. Listeners, there is a planet or a non-planet, now a planet again.
I think it's
Pluto.
Still out. I think it's still out of the running for in planet status.
That has now moved from Capricorn into Aquarius.
It's the age of Aquarius.
Shouldn't have started this conversation because I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know, like about collective,
it's about
innovation and together and stuff.